It's the end of a long, emotional, infuriating week, and it brings with it the end of the manhunt for Charlie Kirk's suspected assassin. After 11,000 leads and tips given to the FBI, the suspect now in custody. He's been identified as 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, a Utah native who was turned in late last night by his father. It was President Trump who first broke the news that the authorities had their guy.
I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job.
A short time later, we knew for sure.
We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
Who is Tyler Robinson? He is currently a third-year student in the electrical apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College. Before that, he attended Utah State University for one semester back in 2021, where he was a pre-engineering major. He was living with his family in Utah, no criminal history, no party affiliation. None of this gives us any clues as to what would drive this person to commit this heinous act of violence. But we can do the math. We may not have an answer, but we do know that he was arrested on suspicion of capital murder, weapons, and obstruction charges, and is being expected to be charged on Tuesday. Officials say federal charges could be filed as soon as today. And this, as we learned this morning, more about the evidence tying Robinson to the shooting. Utah Governor Spencer Cox sharing that family members took note of his politics.
Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate.
Key pieces of evidence included messages on Discord shared with investigator by the suspect's roommates.
The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique.
We also got definitive answers as to what exactly was engraved on the casings.
Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices, bulges, capital O-W-O, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO."
Okay, so there were inscriptions on one fired casing. Notices, bulges, OWO, what's this? And inscriptions on 3 unfired casings. Hey fascist, catch. Up arrow, right arrow, 3 down arrows. Oh, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow, Chow. And if you read this, you are gay, LMAO. And what is this Bella Chow? Well, it's a phrase that's recently been showing up in a few places. It's an anti-fascist anthem. In 2013, it showed up at protests in Istanbul. In 2018, protests in Brazil. Ukrainian resistance to the Russian war as well saw that phrase show up. In 2022, Iranian women protesting against the compulsory hijab. FBI Director Kash Patel, who traveled to Utah last night to be on the scene, said his agency would be on the job until it was done. He closed with a heartfelt message.
We will be here to answer every call they absolutely have, as long as it takes for as long as we need to find and apprehend whatever suspects were involved in this crime. Lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
Where does this investigation go from here? What are authorities currently looking at? Joining me now to discuss is retired Unified Deputy Chief of Police and former University of Utah professor Chris Bertram. Chris, thanks for being with us here today. As you look at the evidence that they've already collected, this anti-fascist quotes on the bullet casings, his posts on social media, on Discord, what do you take away from what we know now about the suspect?
You know, just again, with some of the extremist, ideologies that he may have been thinking about at the time, what we don't know is, and I think that the federal, state, and local partners probably have more information with regards to what his intent is, what he's been doing. I would imagine that investigation is going to continue until they can, really lock down who he is, what he's been doing, not just in the last few hours, but the last few weeks and months and years. And tie that back to what happened at Utah Valley University.
Chris, with the amount of information that we know right now, these anti-fascist inscriptions on the bullet casings, what he might have said at a family dinner, what he's saying on Discord channels, the truth is, the type of language that I'm seeing from this individual right now isn't particularly unique. This type of stuff can be seen all across social media. It's becoming harder, I would suspect, to distinguish some online poster who's become radicalized on the left versus someone who is willing and ready to do violence.
It does. And, we go again to our First Amendment. We have the right to say these type of things, but the violence that followed is not there. And it's incumbent upon law enforcement that we balance that with regards to the intel gathering that we do, things that raise a flag, other things that are just part of, normal critical discussions and, conversations. And I think that, with unfortunately, with individuals like him that are lone wolves, they're not sharing this. They're not participating in group chats where they're, really talking about violence. It becomes very, very difficult. Sometimes we call them the black swan events, it's just hard to predict this, to know that somebody like this that has been talking about these things, maybe with nonviolent, intents, then goes and commits an act like this.
Well, maybe that says less about this particular individual and less about law enforcement. And maybe it says more about the type of conversation that's been mainstreamed on the American left, that it's very hard to distinguish between a crazy person ready to do real violence and the type of discourse that you're seeing with greater frequency on the left. Chris, thank you for your time.
You bet. Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.